Okay, now that we understand how this generator works, we're going to simplify the generator. I do not need 50 hertz operation. I do not need a battery charge circuit. These just complicate everything. So this is the original drawing of the reverse engineered generator. So I'm going to do is simplify it down to this new drawing before I start rewinding. Notice we got rid of all the battery charge windings and we got rid of the 8th winding for each phase. So this is actually what we're going to wire up for the generator. 7 coils in series, 7 coils in series the other way. This will give us our 2-phase 60 hertz, which can be wired to center tap 220 or just a straight 220, depending on how you wire the 2 phases together. The other major change I want to make, we're going to take this complicated generator stator coil wiring diagram and reduce it down to just the 60 hertz power windings. So to do that, we'll end up with this drawing here. And with the simplified drawing, now we just have the exciter windings, red one to white one, and we have two pairs of power windings. Notice we've also changed our exciter winding drawing. We no longer have the other half of that 19 turn winding D. So with these changes, now it'll be much easier to wire this generator and still get what we need, which is simply the power windings. Here we have a view of just the exciter winding circuits. And you notice we still have our red one, which comes up here to coil B on slot 11 is where it connects. Goes down through coil B, goes through the cross connect up to coil A, goes through coil A, goes through the cross connect to coil C, goes through coil C, goes through the cross connect to coil D, and D is shown here as a dotted line because we're only using half of the turns that were originally designed. We're only using 19 turns for this whole dotted line coil instead of the original number, which was closer to 48 for the split phase. So that's what the exciter winding looks like at this point. And let's move on to the next section. The final power winding drawings are shown here. Notice on the right hand side we take our blue 3, it's on slot number 10. So our blue 3 over here connects to slot number 10. Remember there's 2 wires because there's 2 coils in parallel in each slot, which has to do with harmonic reduction. So those 2 coils feed down to slot number 9, number 8, number 7. So we go in on 10, go in on 9, go in on 8, go in on 7, come out on 18. Notice down here slot number 18 goes over to slot number 6. That's this crossover here. 2 pairs of wires go across there. The reason there's 4 wires shown is because there's 4 sets of crossovers here at this point between slot 6 and slot 18. There's 4 sets of wires. So now we come over to coil E, slot 6, which is right here. It drops down to slot 5 for, then we go out to our black 3. So I come down here, go to coil slot 5, go around the loop to 4, around the loop. We don't use the 4th one. So we stop here and we come out on black 3, which matches this drawing. So we don't use this last coil here on this particular phase. On the other phase, we don't use the coil up here, so let's go through that for a second. So if we take our red 3, the red 3 comes here on 22, goes around, 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 comes out on the beginning of this coil. That could be here or here, either place, but that's the white 3. It comes out on the white 3 right here. So that's how you relate these two drawings. They both confirm one another that everything is drawn properly. Like I say, down here, I had it come out at the beginning of the last coil. Up here, it's also the beginning of the last coil where it comes out. So those two are in agreement. Once again, you got 2 wires, 2 sets of coils. So that's how you relate these two drawings. And this is the connectivity that will be established once the windings are wound. One thing that can be very confusing while looking at these windings is that this white 3 with 2 coils going into slot 15 coming out of slot 10, that's different than the blue 3 coils going in on slot 10. So there's actually 4 coils here. There's 2 coils for this phase, and there's 2 coils, I shouldn't say phase, there's 2 coils feeding off this connection, and there's 2 different coils feeding off this connection. So don't let that confuse you. We're pulling off the same end, both ends of the same coil. This is a different set of coils that's running the blue 3, just like we showed you in the other drawing. It's a different set of coils. It just happens to be in the same slot numbers. So don't let this confuse you. We're dealing with 2 separate phases using all 7 coils in each phase. But there's 2 separate groups of pairs. So that's why you see here there's 4 wires, because there's 2 wires feeding one phase and there's 2 wires crossing over for the other phase. So because of this, you have to be careful when you're looking at this stuff. It can get very confusing. So this concludes our adaptation to a simpler winding, simpler generator to build, I should say rebuild. So we're going to go with just the power windings and the exciter windings. So our next video will deal with mapping out how to make these windings work properly. Close scrutiny of the generator coil wiring map over here on the right finds it is correct. We can do our mapping, winding maps from this. There's no errors. But over here on the stator coil, there are errors. There were errors. This corrects the errors. So what's happened, we've taken out 2 wires between slots 9 and 15. If we look at slots 9 and 15, you notice we don't need 2 wires going up there if we connect white 3 right here to slot 9. So we bring 9 down to white 3. We don't need those 2 wires because they're not being used. There's no coil to go to. And the same way down here at the bottom end, we took out 2 crossover wires because slot 21, see, black 3 feeds slot 21. So black 3 feeds slot 21. He doesn't need 2 more wires going down here to slot 3 because there is no coil here in slot 3. No coil pair. Therefore, these 2 connections have been revised. There's only 2 crossovers for each one. And the crossovers for the opposite phase. So I want to clarify this so that the drawing is accurate, so in the future you don't get tripped up looking at something wrong on the drawing. And the other end of these phases, you know, the blue 3, in slot 10, the blue 2 coils go through to slot 15, then 2 wires drop down to slot 9. So this is correct. And then on the red 1, it's the same thing. We got red 1 right here, red 3. Red 3 connects slot 22. And then slot 22 runs through this coil right here, pair of coils. And it needs to jump from 3 to 21. 3 to 21. It's only got 2 wires. It doesn't need these 2 wires over here because they're tied directly to black 3. Black 3 is tied to 10. Black 3 tied directly to 21. So this drawing is now correct, and both drawings are now correct. So we can go on to mapping our actual winding wiring.